I want you to do a math problem for me, right now. Take your current monthly income. Now, add a 0. Now, add another 0. That is 100 times your income. Now, picture the person in your industry who is actually making that money. You know who they are. Here is the insulting part. Are they 100 times smarter than you? No. Do they work 100 times harder than you? Absolutely not. In fact, their technical skills might be worse than yours. Yet they built an empire. You know why? Because you're selling a service. They're selling a status through an identity that they created for themselves. Let me tell you a well-known story. This is a cup of hot water, milk, and crushed beans. Total cost of ingredients? About 20 cents. But you happily pay $5.50 for it. That is a 2,600% markup. Why? Here is the uncomfortable truth. Nobody goes to Starbucks for the coffee. You are paying $5 for the logo. You're buying the feeling of, I am busy, I hustle, I am successful enough to burn $6 on a drink. It's not a beverage, it is an accessory. This is exactly why you are broke. If you are currently competing on features, specs, or price, you are fighting a losing battle. To build wealth, you have to stop selling things and start selling feelings. You are obsessing over the beans that is your degree, your writing skills, your coding. You think if you just make better coffee, people will pay you more. Wrong. The world doesn't pay for the beans, they pay for the cup. If you are selling a skill, you are a commodity. You are replaceable. If you sell an identity, you are a monopoly. Here is the economic reality. Utility has a price ceiling. Perception has no ceiling. Here is the 3-step framework to build an identity for you. Step 1. Positioning. You cannot sell identity if you are trying to please everyone. Identity requires an enemy. To define who you are, you must define who you are not. In the early 2000s, Apple didn't market better processors or more RAM. In fact, their specs were often worse than PCs. Instead, they ran the Get a Mac campaign. They personified the PC as a boring, virus-prone. They personified the Mac as the cool, creative. When you bought a Mac, you weren't buying a tool to browse the internet. You were buying proof that you weren't a boring corporate. You were buying a membership card to the creative class. So, stop listing your features. Start listing your values. Don't say, I go to the gym. Say, I am someone who never misses workouts. Most people focus on what they do. Rich people focus on who they become. Step 2 is the Veblen pricing model. Standard economics says lower prices increase demand. Identity economics says higher prices increase desire. This is called the Veblen effect. When you sell a skill, you charge based on market rate. You look at what everyone else charges and you undercut them. That is suicide. When you sell identity, the price is the product. Look at Rolex. Technically, a $20 Casio is a better watch, but nobody buys a Rolex to know what time it is. They buy it to signal to the room that their time is valuable, and you have disposable income. They are buying a badge of entry into the 1%. The high price tag isn't a bug, it's the main feature. If Rolex cost $200, nobody would want one. So, raise your prices, not just to make more money, but to change who you attract. Price determines the perception of the value before the client even experiences it. Step 3. The alter ego for uniform effect. This is where most people fail. You can't sell a high-status identity if you still view yourself as a low-status service provider. You need an alter ego. Most people wait until they feel confident to act like a boss. Science proves that is backward. You don't wait for the feeling, you wear the feeling. You are struggling to sell high ticket because you still see yourself as the person you were 5 years ago. You need to kill that version of you. You model it until you master it. Create the character of the CEO you need to be. How do they speak? How do they dress? How do they handle rejection? When you sit down to work, you are not you. You are the architect of your future empire. Act accordingly. We spend our whole lives trying to be useful. We want to be the best tool. But tools are used, and then they are put away. The people who change the world and the people who make the most money, they don't want to be used. They want to be followed. You have a choice today. You can keep polishing your skills, hoping someone notices how sharp you are. Or you can decide who you are, stand for something that matters, and demand the world meet you there. The world has enough technicians. We are starving for leaders. Get to work and take action to subscribe.